I want to get your thoughts on what you made of MSNBC dismissing this commentator they use, a human rights attorney, I guess, Arsalan Iftikhar, who would criticize you and your Muslim no-go zone comments, saying that I think Governor Jindal is protesting a bit too much. He went on to say he might be trying to, you know, scrub some of the brown off of his skin as he runs to the right in a Republican presidential exploratory bid. And obviously, it's referring to the fact, obnoxiously so, by the way, that you're of Indian descent, but they let go of him. But he said to CNN, when he was asked about this, that I will apologize to Bobby Jindal when he apologizes to 7 million American Muslims for advancing this debunked Muslim no-go zones myth. What do you say?
You know, a couple of things. I think it's foolish that MSNBC even gave somebody like this a platform, but here's the real issue. I know the left, I knew the left was going to go crazy when I called out radical Islamic terrorism, when I actually said that Muslim leaders have a responsibility not just to denounce violence, but to say that these barbarous, these murderous terrorists, these evil individuals are not going to be martyrs. They're not going to enjoy a reward in the afterlife, but rather they're going straight to hell. I knew that was politically incorrect. I knew it was politically incorrect when I said it, saying that we need integration and assimilation for people who want to come live in our society, in our country, that it's not right for them to reject the very freedoms that are part of our Judeo-Christian heritage.
Did you know that the term no-go zones was wrong? I mean, we reported the same, and we were wrong. We botched it. We apologized for it. You are not, I take it.
Not at all. Neil, no, look, I think what you apologize, what your network apologized for is calling an entire city a no-go zone. That's not true, but there absolutely are neighborhoods. And the same day I made those remarks, there was a police chief in London that said this in the Daily Mail. There absolutely are neighborhoods where the police are less likely to go in. There are neighborhoods in the UK and in France that have been documented, very well documented by Ambassador Bolton and others, where there are attempts to impose Sharia law. There are neighborhoods where women do not feel comfortable walking in without veils. There are neighborhoods where, and that crimes that the London police, that this police chief in London described that were being underreported were serious crimes like violence, like female domestic abuse, like child abuse, serious crimes.
But are those no-go zones? Are those no-go zones, or what?
Look, you can call them whatever term you want, but absolutely there are neighborhoods where you have communities of people that don't want to integrate, don't want to assimilate. They may be second, third, fourth generation. They don't consider themselves part of that country. They're actually going in there to colonize, to overtake the culture. That's what's going to happen in America if we're not careful. The reality is, if you come to our country, we don't care what color your skin is, we don't care what your religion or creed is, but we do expect you to respect religious liberty, freedom of speech, the freedom of self-determination. Neil, let's be clear what we're dealing with. We're dealing with folks that radicals that believe it's okay to go kill over 150 children in a Pakistan school, to kill people in France because they didn't like the cartoons they were drawing. They're killing teenagers simply for watching soccer. The reality is these are barbarians that are using military tactics against civilian populations. It used to be okay to call America the melting pot. Now the politically correct wants to say, look, we can't impose our culture on others. We can't impose our values on others. But you obviously are aware, Governor, with your rising stature and a possible presidential run, that the other side, Democrats more to the point, would seize on this. A spokesman for the Democratic National Committee saying, it's no surprise that Bobby Jindal will go ahead and butcher the facts in an effort to divide people. This is exactly what we've come to expect. Jindal is just embarrassing himself. What do you say? Look, I think it's embarrassing the president somehow, for some reason, doesn't want to use the word terrorist to describe these individuals, doesn't want to use the words radical Islam. I hope and believe the majority of Muslims do not share the views of these radical terrorists, but I think it's time for the leaders to denounce the individuals, not just the acts of violence. Look, I know the left wants us to tiptoe around the truth. I'm not going to do it. Part of the president's job as the leader of our country, the leader of the free world, is to state clearly and honestly to us what are the challenges we face. We're at war with radical Islam. Whether he wants to call it that or not, that is exactly the conflict we face. I know the left's not going to like it, but Neil, I'm also ready for us to stop calling ourselves hyphenated Americans. Part of this assimilation, I've talked about the responsibilities for Muslim leaders. We have responsibilities as well. We need to stop calling ourselves African Americans, Indian Americans. My parents came here over 40 years ago. They wanted their kids to be Americans. They love India. They love our heritage. If they wanted us to be Indians, they would have stayed in India. We also need to be teaching our kids in civics in our schools about American exceptionalism. We need to insist on English as our language in this country. I have nothing against anybody who wants to come here to be an American, but if people don't want to come here to integrate and assimilate, what they're really trying to do is set up their own culture, their own communities. What they're really trying to do is overturn our culture. We need to recognize that threat, what that threat is to us. If we don't, we're going to see a replica of what's happening in Europe and America. We're going to see our own no-go zones if we're not serious about insisting on assimilation and integration.
So you're not taking anything back?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And I wish that the president would join me in recognizing the threat we face.